Hi and welcome to PlayStation Plus One. Today we are following on from our first ever live stream, which was just a couple of moments ago with Gundam vs Extreme on the PlayStation 3. We've now slightly moved to a different type of competitive game, but this time it's fighting. So we're playing Street Fighter 3 Third Strike Online Edition on the PlayStation 3. This game was, I think, released back in 2011 and is the kind of like a port of a remake, well, not a remake, but an updated version of Street Fighter 3. Today we're just going to play the standard arcade mode, talk through that. It's quite an interesting game, Street Fighter 3, because for me, I think it's probably the best, the most, it's kind of hard to describe, but it's the most complete or final Street Fighter 3, or Street Fighter game, I should say, I think I've played. It feels more final, and it feels more complete and perfected than, say, Street Fighter 4 does. And I don't know if it's because Street Fighter 4 was the kind of the first of the 2.5D fighting games, and yes, I mean they've been doing it for a while. They've had numerous kind of versions of it, but it's definitely this. That game feels kind of different, despite it trying to feel like essentially a 2D sprite-based game. So it's kind of weird, but anyway. But yeah, for Street Fighter 3, for me, is just, it's kind of like what I think, when I think of like a few kind of perfect games of, this game is really, really good because, one, because it's obviously very, very good, but also I can't think of many faults with the game. So there are many games that are really, really good, but I can think of faults within those games straight away. Whenever I kind of think about The Last of Us, a great emotional story, visually, amazing, acting is amazing, performances, the whole kind of atmosphere, everything is amazing. However, there's some gameplay bits that just kind of break it for me, where I kind of see Ellie walking about, or kind of running about and making noise, and the zombies not really, I say zombies, the infected not really kind of noticing it. And I find that that's not kind of, it's not game breaking, but it is definitely atmosphere breaking, and so it kind of pulls me out of it, and I'm like, I wish that they kind of solved that. This game, it's a fighting game. It's an improvement of an improvement of an improvement of an improvement, where they've reached a point that the hit detection is perfect. The animation is perfect. I mean, you look at this. This game was originally released in 1997, I want to say. So as of now, it's like over kind of 12 years, 14 years, whatever. I can show you another 14-year-old game and it will look awful and it will play awful. This game will forever look and play amazing, in my opinion. I think the visuals, the 2D sprites kind of hold up. It's an art style that is kind of hard to fault, really. I mean, the characters are nice and chunky, the animation, the amount of frames that each of the characters seem to have in terms of their rotation of animation and frames, it makes it look fluid. I mentioned that the hit detection is on point. I mean, it's the problem that I have with King of Fighters games, and even kind of Guilty Gear games as well, to be honest. Anything kind of made by, who is the developer of the Blaze Blue and Guilty Gear games, I've forgotten their names. But it's the issue I have with them as well, is that the hit detection is slightly off, and I think it's fine if you kind of grew up, playing various different fighting games, because then you can kind of mold back, especially 2D fighting games. If you were growing up playing King of Fighters and Art of Fighting and Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat, you probably don't care so much about the hit detection. I mean, you might do, but you're probably more sympathetic to it than say someone like myself, who's the only kind of 2D fighting game that I played the most was really Street Fighter. Every other type of fighting game that I was into were, and I guess it kind of shows my age when I was growing up, but I played the 3D fighting games on PlayStation, PS1, and the Saturn. So I played something like Tekken, or Virtua Fighter, or even Dead or Alive at some point. Dead or Alive 2 on Dreamcast. So those fighting games, you don't when you have 3D kind of polygons, it's easier to show hit detection. Whereas when you've got individual sprites, it's difficult. I mean, we're digressing yet again. The point is, this game still looks amazing in my opinion. So, yes. So I think that's kind of my thoughts visually on the game and how it kind of stands up, and why I think it's such an important game. And I was kind of saying, well, you compare it to something like Last of Us, which I was kind of using as an example of things that, it's a really, really good game, but there's this fault, or there's this issue, or there's whatever. Whereas this game is kind of open-ended. You are as good or as bad as you are going to be. If you practice, you'll be good. If you don't practice, you're going to be bad. There's no way of really kind of scamming things, and I think these fighting games have now reached to the point, I guess it reached to the point that the days of button bashing are over in 2D fighting games now. I couldn't play someone in like the Persona 4 game because I'm not very good at it, because I've only played it a couple of times. But they would, and this is the thing with those type of games, and it's also to do with its hit detection, is I wouldn't be able to fight against someone playing that. They would just completely destroy me. Whereas with 3D fighting games, it's quite easy to do that. It's, unless because of 3D movement and whatnot. It's slightly different. But Street Fighter 3, yeah, it's for me, it's a game that I'll like. Marvel vs. Capcom 2, I will always kind of go back to. For me, I mean, I may have spoken about it before on one of the older videos, but Street Fighter 3 and Marvel vs. Capcom 2, I think, are better than their sequels. So I guess the sequel to Street Fighter 3 is I guess chronologically is Street Fighter 4, and I'm a big fan of Street Fighter 4. I think Street Fighter 4 is a really, really good game, but I just don't think it's as good as Street Fighter 3. And the same thing with Marvel vs. Capcom 2. A lot better than Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Actually, I would probably go on the record to say that actually I don't really like Marvel vs. Capcom 3. And that's not to say that it's a bad game, I just don't really feel it. And I think it's because it has that whole Tatsunoko versus Capcom simplified attack button config where I think you have like one punch, from what I can remember, and one kick. No, it's three, isn't it? So you have light, medium, and strong attack. And depending on the combination of the move, then you get that attack. So half a circle forward, attack instead of punch, but attack is your fireball. Backwards, do the same thing. Reverse is your hurricane kick. And I just didn't like the fact that it kind of restricted my my button combinations. That's such a minor gripe, but it's just, for me, it never really sat with me well, and I just always felt that it just felt a little bit dumbed down. It felt that it was just it didn't really work for me. And actually, I never really liked the graphical style, the art style of Marvel vs. Capcom 3, and it's not. It's kind of more to do with the. I think it's because obviously they're mixing both the Marvel characters and the Street Fighter characters, so they had to kind of use art styles that work across both. Because as far as I can remember, I don't think it's the Street Fighter 4 character art. No, it's not. It's definitely not the same character style. Yeah, so that's again we've come back onto art style and graphics when it really is about gameplay. Although no, I was talking about the game mechanics. So that is gameplay. That's total gameplay. I'm actually using the DualShock 3. I'm not using an arcade stick, and that's no excuse. I should still be winning and good at this, or at least decent enough to get to the end. There's no way I'm going to beat Gil. I'm just putting this out at the moment. I'll do one kind of set or round against Gil when I get there, if I get there, and then we'll call it a day. That guy's relentless, and I wasn't really kind of doing this to kind of talk or to show me completing Gil. It was really just me having a good time, sticking this thing on, seeing what we can do. So we are obviously, as you kind of realise, we're Ryu. We're against Dudley in this kind of weird variation of what's supposed to be London. And so as you can tell, like I said, previous video, or if you can not already guess, being British, this is just basically a combination of a whole load of things that are conceived to be British on one stage. So you've got that green kind of shop in the background that's supposed to be Harrods. You've got the horse and carriage, even though I've never seen a horse and carriage in London. You've got the red telephone box, which is kind of a staple of, I guess, the UK. Don't have those anymore now that people have mobiles. In the background there was kind of like an underground, we did random, doesn't matter. There was a underground sign, and it said something like Knightsbridge, which is kind of technically correct, because that is kind of near Harrods, but it wouldn't look like that. It also had like a mini in the background, which I guess is cool. But it also had something else, like it had the name of the street, and I think that the name of the street, it says, is like Downing Street. And Downing Street is not near Knightsbridge. Downing Street is, obviously, I say obviously, you probably don't know, but Downing Street is the street where the Prime Minister lives, resides, which is like a famous street. So they've just kind of taken hold of the thing. And I guess that, no subway in New York looks like this. I mean, I've been to New York, it looks grimy, but I'm pretty sure they just probably were looking at generic subway places and were like, yes, New York is dirty. Let's just stick it and have like some graffiti and stuff. So it's probably actually not too far from New York, actually, from what I can remember. So we Yun. To be honest, never really played with Yin and Yang. And I think from what I can remember, they were originally Street Fighter Alpha 3 characters. And so they were added to Third Strike along with Chun-Li, one of the other guys who, I think his name's Q, that's it. Q was added to Third Strike, as was Remy, he was added to Third Strike. I don't remember if 12 was there. 12 was in Double Strike. So yeah, so actually, obviously Third Strike it's Street Fighter 3, but Third Strike is like the third version of Street Fighter 3, for those who don't know. So there was original Street Fighter 3, then there was Double Impact. That's right, that's what it was, Double Impact. It came out on I remember having it on Dreamcast. And Double Impact contained the original and the Double Impact version of Street Fighter 3, which is like had its kind of various modifications. And then you had Third Strike. which was also released on the Dreamcast. So yes, that's kind of your Street Fighter 3 trivia. You probably all know if you are interested or watching this. I should probably change my buttons because they're all mapped to the fight stick. And really, next time when I'll do a video, I will definitely play using the fight stick, because I've got a Hori. Oh no, sorry, it's not Hori. It's a Mad Catz. It was the was it Street Fighter 3 fight stick? I'll need to dig it out. I can't remember what game it's for. No, it's Street Fighter X Tekken Mad Catz fight stick, which is really good. So it's the one that it's fairly chunky and you can connect